Hi everyone, welcome to this class. Today we are going to talk about grammatical functions. Every speaker of any language must distinguish these two aspects of language because we use them every day and every moment when we express an idea. We can distinguish two types of things, functions and roles. Grammatical functions or grammatical relationships, as they are also known, are subject, direct object, indirect object, and oblique object. And the roles are agent, patient, instrument, which are the main roles. There are also the so-called peripheral roles. Peripheral roles are theme, source, place, and so on. The subject is the main grammatical function. The subject is a complex structure because it can appear in different forms and it has some characteristics. In the first place, the subject precedes the verb in declarative statements. The subject is always in initial position. Be careful with this. So, when you want to do syntactic analysis, the first thing you have to do is to recognize the main verb, and after that, you know that everything to the left of the main verb is the subject. Even if it's a single word, if it's a phrase, determiner plus a noun or adjective plus a noun, or it's a full clause. In any case, if this structure, anyone, is before, to the left of the main verb, it's occupying the position of the subject. Let's look at the example. These boys build houses. These boys is the subject because it is to the left of the main verb, which is build. A second characteristic is that the subject agrees in number with the verb. For example, we say, he listens to music, or we listen to music. We have in both sentences subject-verb agreement. In the third place, the subject in English is compulsory. It means it is obligatory. We cannot omit the subject as we do it in Spanish or other Romance languages. Number 4, the subject can go after the preposition by in passive constructions because the preposition by indicates that there is an agent in the passive structure. Let's look at the example. Houses are built by this man. This man is the agent, as you know in traditional grammar. But it is also the doer of the action or building. Also, let's look at the following characteristic. Number 5, single words, phrases, and clauses might appear in subject position. It's what I told you before. Let's look at the examples. We like this book. Here, the subject is very simple. It's just a pronoun, we. The second example, Peter lives next door. Here, the subject is a single noun, Peter, a proper noun. Let's look at the third example. Some workers are in my office. Here, the subject has two elements, a determiner and a noun, some workers. And finally, The old lady living downstairs. That's the subject. Here we have a full clause in subject position. So we have the subject, the old lady living downstairs, and the predicate was a teacher. So you can see that also clauses can function as subjects. That's the reason we say that the subject is a very complex structure. Now, it's necessary to recognize some criteria to identify the subject. We can talk about a syntactic criterion. What's the syntactic criterion? It says the subject controls the occurrence of reflexives and tag questions. Look at the example. Mike bought himself a computer. Himself goes with Mike, refers back to Mike. That's why we say that the subject controls the occurrence of reflexives. The reflexive pronoun himself refers back to Mike. Also, we have a morphosyntactic criterion. A morphosyntactic criterion has part of the morphology of the word and part of the syntaxis of the structure. The subject is in the nominative case. Morphosyntactic criteria refers to case. Pay attention to the example. Mike is in the nominative case. Okay? Therefore, Mike bought a car. We say that Mike is nominative the same as in Spanish. A semantic criterion also plays a role to determine that a noun phrase or a subject or a noun alone or a clause is functioning as a subject. Subjects refer to entities that exist independently of the action or state of the verb. This is very important. Mike exists independently. Mike bought a car. Mike exists independently, but a car exists because Mike is buying that object. We have different types of subjects. We are going to refer to the grammatical subject, which is the most important, the logical subject, and the psychological subject. The grammatical subject is syntactically based. Pay attention to the example. Marta baked a cake. Marta is the grammatical subject because it has all the characteristics that we mentioned before. It is also the agent performing the action. Marta is who bakes a cake, so it is the doer of the action. Let's pay attention to the logical subject. The logical subject is based on the role that the subject plays. A cake was baked by Marta. Pay attention to this example. This structure is in the passive. Therefore, a cake is the grammatical subject because it's in initial position, it's placed to the left of the verb, okay? But Marta is the logical subject because Marta is the performer of the action of baking. Finally, psychological subject. This type of subject is based on semantic principles. It refers, the psychological subject is the one that is the theme of a structure. For instance, the psychological subject in Marta Bake a Cake is Marta because we are talking about Marta. Marta is the theme. The psychological subject is just for general information. It is not very important when we describe subject, but the grammatical subject and the logical subject are very important to distinguish active from the passive structure. Other grammatical function or grammatical relationship existing in English is the object. We have different types of objects. In fact, we have 3 types of object: direct object, indirect object, and oblique object. The direct object in active declarative clauses refers to the noun phrase affected directly by the action of the verb. Pay attention to the example, the same example that in the previous explanation. Marta baked a cake. Cake is a direct object because it is directly affected by the action of the verb. It corresponds to the grammatical subject in passive constructions. Pay attention. A cake was baked by Marta. A cake is the grammatical subject, but is not the logical subject. Direct objects typically refer to patients. He broke the window. The window is the noun phrase. The window is the patient, which is directly affected by the action of breaking. Other types of objects are the indirect object and the oblique object. The oblique object refers to a noun phrase that happens after a preposition. Pay attention. She wrote a message to Sam. Sam is the oblique object because it is located after the preposition to. The indirect object is the entity that benefits from the action of the verb. Who receives the benefit? She wrote Sam a message. Who receives the message? Sam. So Sam benefits from the action of writing a message. That's why it is known as the indirect object. And this is all about objects. Thank you and God bless you.